density of 2.3 units per acre in the unzoned area. Access is provided off of Bessie Road, a state road. Water and sewer will be provided by Greenville Water and Metropolitan Sewer. Here is an aerial photo of the subject site and some of the development patterns, and of course, some of the subdivisions under construction. They include Brook Valley with 95 lots, Gunter Road Place with 15 lots. These developments would add a total of 1,100 trips to the transportation networks, and these are currently under construction. Cottonwood Ridge and Cloverdale Hills were recently approved but are not under construction. If they are done, they would add 5,580 trips to the network. Here's Bessie Road looking north and south. A traffic impact study was required for Evergreen Hills and will be discussed in later slides. The preliminary plan is before you. The project includes 100 single-family detached lots, 2 primary entrances, 3 internal access roads with sidewalks, 1 stub-out connection point, and 23.67 acres of common area, including detention area, community park, and cluster mailbox area. As stated, this site is located in the unzoned area, and these are some of the surrounding land uses. The site is located within the suburban mixed-use character area of the comprehensive plan. Primary uses for this area include regional or neighborhood commercial, office, institutional, and mixed-use residential. The recommended density is 6 to 20 dwellings per acre. The applicant is proposing 2.3 units per acre, with lots ranging between approximately 6,000 to 9,000 square feet. So on to the traffic study. As stated, one was required by SCDOT. The traffic study was submitted to SCDOT on May 10th. SCDOT agrees with the findings of the studies. Their response is as follows. A left turn is required at Access 1 and Access 2 on Bessie Road. Special care will need to be taken to coordinate turn lane design with the previously approved Cottonwood Ridge development. Staff recommends conditional approval of the preliminary plan with the standard and specific requirements. Approval conditions are as follows. All traffic improvements warranted by the traffic impact study and SCDOT shall be installed once 40 lots or 60 units have been recorded by final plat. A revised plan shall be submitted to subdivision administration and land development reflecting the required improvements prior to issuance of a land disturbance permit. The lot sequencing on the final plat must remain the same as the approved preliminary plan, and a phased master plan shall be submitted that shows all existing and proposed phases for all lots in the development for each final phase submitted. This concludes the presentation for Evergreen Hills.
Thank you, Ms. Jeffers Campbell. Do we have anybody speak in opposition?
Now we have Ms. Christina Burgess Griswold, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Go ahead, ma'am. You have no more than 10 minutes. Oh, there she is. That's okay. Give us your name and address. You're the only speaker in opposition.
That's the only name we have signed up for the general
All right.
public.
Again, it's 10 minutes accrued time, so you can take it all or share it. So.
Okay. I'm Christina Burgess Griswold, and I live at 107 Orr Street in the Piedmont Mill Village. I'm speaking today in opposition of proposed Evergreen Hills subdivision on Highway 86 Bessie Road. I'm a concerned mother of 5 children. 3 of these children attend Woodmont Middle School. My children have mentioned on several occasions of near accidents while on the school bus. Thankfully, they have an amazing bus driver. My children and I have also been concerned about it's been taking them a lot longer to get home in the afternoons this past year. I've recently started taking screenshots of Google Maps showing the traffic congestion at Old Pelzer Road and Bessie Road and Highway 20 and Bessie Road. And after looking over the traffic impact study of the proposed Cottonwood Ridge, which came before this very committee, and Evergreen Hills, I'm kind of dismayed because I'm not sure where the numbers were coming from. And I was only able to review the Evergreen Hills rough draft study. The finalized one is not online for public to see. The traffic counts were obtained May 15th, 2019, exactly 2 years ago. With the exponential growth we've witnessed in the area, the data used for these studies should no longer be valid or considered reliable. Bessie Road is the main travel road for citizens and industries in the area. Failure to obtain or analyze critical data jeopardizes the lives of the people that live in this area and drive these roads daily. I imagine there's gonna be more white crosses like the one that sits perfectly situated where Cotton Ridge subdivision is gonna be. According to the impact study for Evergreen Hills as a part of the Cotton Ridge, these changes, along with the signal timing, phasing adjustments, should experience safety and operational improvements. The key word in that sentence is should. Any adjustments or improvements must improve safety and operational experience. This would include pedestrian walks. I was surprised that there were no pedestrian counts included on there. My family, we've lived in the area, we've drove. There's tons of pedestrians. That's a lower income Kingswood Estates. People walk to the gas station. I mean, I've seen the lawnmower even. So, I mean, there's all kinds of foot traffic as well that wasn't included. Let's see. And let's not forget the traffic studies for Cottonwood Ridge across and Evergreen Hills only use a 4% annual increase calculation. But in reality, if you look at all the dense development in the media area, the amount of daily trips on our local roads would exceed nearly 100% just in the past 2 years alone. I think Grove Landing's at the other end of Bessie Road, plus the ones that were just mentioned on Fur Road and then Cottonwood Ridge. I've been in touch with SCDOT District 3 office. I emailed them my concerns and questions regarding the traffic impact studies and also sent my screenshots of the congested traffic during non-peak hours. Per the administrative assistant, a study of the intersection of Highway 86 and Highway 20 was conducted this week, and results will be available to review for 30 business days as to what change can be made for that intersection. I'm also waiting to receive responses for my concerns and questions about the intersection of Old Pelzer Road and Bessie Road and the TIS study from the district permits engineer Ben Olson. These are just I'm sorry. Okay, in closing, I do not know how this commission can approve the subdivision with such an important piece of infrastructure missing. This is certainly inconsistent with the requirements of Article 3.1. And also, according to the thing, the Article 9.5 wasn't even followed. They did not have they submitted it late. The traffic form the SCDOT traffic requirements form shall be submitted in no later than 10 days after the SAC meeting. Therefore, the subdivision should be denied until all critical information is available to make a rational decision to approve or deny. My children, the 696 children enrolled at Woodmont Middle School and the 606 children enrolled at Sioux Cleveland cannot afford the continued complexity of this planning commission. And I think that's all.
You sure?
I've been learning a lot about this stuff. Thank you, Paula, for all your assistance. She's been a true gem, like answering my questions as well. Do I take a seat now?
Oh, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, you can sit down.
Okay, thank you.
I had a quick question for.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You can't sit down.
I kind of lost you at one point there.
It's okay.
You had mentioned a crucial part of the information that was missing. I just want to be clear as to what part at that point in your comments you
the
were saying
T-
you were missing.
The TIS study, I only have the rough draft copy. I wasn't privy to what the DOT recommended. And according to one of the forms, it was submitted after the April 29th deadline date. So even the general public isn't aware of hasn't been able to view the traffic impact study itself to ask questions or to be addressed.
Okay, I just want to be sure of
No.
what you were referencing there.
Okay.
Any other questions for the speaker? Now you can sit down.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, we do have one other person that has signed up to speak, Gary Bailey.
In opposition?
We're not 100% sure if it was in opposition or in favor.
Well, we can go ahead in favor.
Yeah, I think it was in favor. So,
right.
so then we have several people signed up to speak.
Come
First
on
one is
down.
Paul Talbert.
Oh, I was gonna let him speak. All right, sorry. Stepping on your toes. Mr. Talbert,
Be online.
is he online or?
No, excuse me, sorry.
Oh, there you
Sorry,
go.
I'm representing the developer and the engineer for the project.
Oh, okay.
Address is 102 Two Notch Trail. So I think that we had somewhat of a preferred order, if it's okay with the planning commission, that
Go.
the owner or perhaps the gentleman that was in favor would rather speak before me. and
No,
I'm
go
willing
ahead.
to-
It's up to you all.
Okay, thank you.
And who?
I believe it'd be Jordan Hammond.
Jordan Hammond? Okay.
Did we get the TIS form? I don't see it.
Just to respond to that, when SADOT requires a traffic study, they're not required to submit the actual study to us, just the traffic impact review
Right.
form.
That form.
She is right. It did come after the deadline, but they did submit it and I provided that information to the commission.
Okay, doke.
So thank y'all for having us here today. Rashida's been great to deal with. And really, I think she was very clear and articulate during the presentation. I don't want to be redundant and list too many things. We have brought our engineer to discuss some of the issues, to address any questions and concerns the commission may have. We also brought our traffic engineer to address the local citizens' concerns as well. I did want to point out, so I am going to be a little redundant, so I do apologize. This is my first time in front of this commission and first time in front of this county. We are within according to the future land use plan, it shows that this area was, I believe it was 6 to 20 units per acre. We're well below that at 2.3 units per acre. Like Rashida said, a traffic impact study was required. We hired a professional engineer to perform that study, and he can speak more thoroughly to that. It recommended improvements that we are glad to fund the improvements of. He'll talk more about that, but it's essentially a left turn lane into both of our entrances and essentially 3 lanes coming out of each of our entrances at each of our at the subdivision. As mentioned earlier, the water is sufficient in its availability to the site. Sewer is available to the site as well. And I brought an exhibit here that shows a little bit about, I've been in front of other planning commissions and other counties that had concerns about entrance appeal and landscaping, and brought a little example of what it would substantially look like at the entrances, just in case y'all had any interest in that. I'm here to answer any questions and try to clarify anything y'all might have.
Commission, any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, I guess, what?
Okay, can I pass it over to the traffic engineer, Jeff Ingham?
You have a question?
I think I'll wait for the
Okay.
engineer.
Yeah, I got several for the engineer. Go ahead. Who's our next speaker?
Jeff Ingham.
Okay. Name and address, please, sir.
Jeff Ingham. I'm with Ramey Kemp. I did the traffic engineering
Okay.
study for it. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can address the questions that were raised earlier. The traffic study before we start any traffic study, we talk about it with DOT. And we get the scope from DOT and they tell us what intersections we want to study. The counts that were done, they were taken at different times because of COVID affects traffic patterns. And there was it was tough to get a representation of what the normal patterns were. So what DOT, their procedure is, if you have old counts, to adjust them. We got new counts to make sure that they were in line with the old counts and adjusted the older counts upwards to balance them all to make sure that we were representative in a conservative way. Some of the other instances, we do count pedestrians, we do count trucks. All of those things are included in the counts that we do. The study probably said the intersection improvements should improve things. It absolutely will improve the operational conditions, the safety. There have been many studies about how much safety improvements you can get from adding turn lanes, putting in protected phases. Those are the kind of things that are happening at this intersection, and they're going to make it safer. And that intersection is going to be better when those improvements are implemented. I'm trying to remember. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Again, the recommendations were left turn lanes at both access points. And again, we went through DOT and that was their recommendation as well.
She spoke that the study was in 2019, but you said you have updated that, correct?
We took traffic counts at that intersection in 2019 and we took traffic counts in 2020.
Okay,
And the 2020 counts were COVID affected.
sure.
And so the way that we reconciled that, again, we went through DOT to fit their normal procedures. But the way to reconcile that they suggested was to raise the 2019 counts and make sure the 2020 counts, if they were lower because of COVID, you would raise them at a higher rate
Okay.
and make sure that all of the volumes balance, which is what we did.
All right. Any questions for the traffic engineer?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Clark.
when you did your study, there are two current subdivisions under construction at the 25 end of Bessie.
Hmm.
Were those considered?
The way we handle that is, again, we talk with DOT and they tell us what subdivisions are to be included in. We have a scoping meeting beforehand and we say what growth is happening in the area. Obviously, the Cottonwood Ridge study was right there, so we included that as background. And we look at the historical growth rates on the area. How much has traffic grown? DOT takes count stations on most of the DOT roads every year, and you can look and plot how much traffic has actually grown over the last 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. And you come up with a growth rate, and that growth rate is meant to represent some of the smaller pockets of just general growth in the area. And then you add whatever specific developments that they suggest. In this case, it was Cottonwood Ridge. So we've taken the counts that we've got, we've added the 4% annual growth rate and added Cottonwood Ridge in order to be conservative for projecting future growth.
Okay, so it sounds like you did not include
It was included in the general growth, which is, again, the standard way that these things are done, and again, with the DOT's recommendations.
okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Next speaker, please.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Gary Bailey. I'm not a developer and I don't know anything about real estate, so I couldn't answer any of those questions. I am representing the 4 owners of the property. Three of the owners are retired in their 70s, two are widowed. They grew up on that property, went to Woodmont High School. So we're just here in favor, obviously, of the development. I do have a letter, I don't know if you need it. It's just a letter of recommendation or letter in favor of that. We just had a few points that we wanted to make. Like I said, they've had that property since the 50s. And at this point, they can't maintain the property anymore. Like I said, three of them are retired, two of them are widowed. Part of the problem we've had is we've recovered stolen cars, not us, the Greenville County Sheriff's Department's recovered stolen cars on the property. We've had letters from the neighbors where they've had a drone flying over the property showing people camping out, people partying. Obviously, I don't know if they're doing drugs or not, it's just groups of people down there. We've tried to stop hunting on the property, so we got with DNR to put signs up. So ultimately, we can't maintain the property anymore. And so we feel like, one, I know there's a lot of properties being developed, but that side of that area, particularly right there on Bessie Road, could really use some nicer, affordable homes. So we feel like putting a subdivision there, still maintaining a lot of green space, is going to take an area that's had a lot of crime over the last few years because no one's there to maintain. It's grown up. Once you get on the other side of the trees at the road, it's, no one sees you. So you can kind of do whatever you want back there. So we're just asking the commission to approve the application. Also, the last thing I would point is that if it's not approved, the value of that land decreases significantly. And that will be a financial impact to the 4 owners, but particularly the 3 that are retired. So that's all I had to say. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have regarding the ownership of that property. But as I said, I'm not a developer in the real estate. So
Commissioners, any questions for the speaker?
Not for the speaker in particular, but I do have a question for the civil.
All right. He's back.
Thank you.
State your name and address again, please.
Paul Talbert, 102 Two Notch Trail, Easy, South Carolina,
All
29642.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, go ahead.
In light of Mr. Bailey's, the other Mr. Bailey.
Oh,
Right.
Mr. Bailey.
Comments. What's the reason for not providing some access to the back for the community to enjoy that property in the back? It seems kind of cordoned off and still ripe for some of the activities that Mr. Bailey mentioned.
I think that at the time, whenever we came up with the site plan, discussed it with the owner, there's a creek back there. So there's a potential cost to providing even pedestrian access across that without impacting the natural resource that's existing. So it's certainly something that they wouldn't mind investigating, I'm sure, as well, but it's not something that they're eager to volunteer just because we're not aware of the cost of what that might cost for crossing.
Mr. Chairman, I thought you would say something about that as far as
Oh, I haven't gotten
access to the
started
back of
yet.
the property.
We thought this was gonna be on next month's agenda, and I'm trying to get my head together here. If you got any other questions for the engineer? I mean, I agree with you. You've got all that. They're claiming, oh, look how great a density we are, and because of all that land in the back, but you can't get to it. So
Chairman,
yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
I'd just like to make a comment with the, with the water back there, the creeks and all. Unless this is a 55 and over neighborhood, you're going to have kids exploring.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a prudent decision if this is granted to build some kind of access, a bridge over the creek or something. Nature trails where people could enjoy the land that's called common area. That's not so common if they can't access it.
Understood.
I agree.
I would make a recommendation that at somewhere around lot 27, and aside from the stormwater access easement, I know a lot of times that has rock and whatnot, if that can be accommodated as an access point, but also over on lot let's say 15, 16, somewhere in there.
Yes, sir.
I would really like to see 2 access points going towards that back area. Good job on the density, but it doesn't mean much to me personally when
It's inaccessible.
inaccessible and you're putting people in the back there, which are they're gonna love living back there with all that nature behind them, but you're putting them in weird places to kids escaping through the yards and trying to get to some place in the back. So I would like to see that as part of the
Conditions.
conditions.
All right. I do have a couple questions here. One, the LDR not specifically states all adjacent properties should have the zoning on every one of these parcels. Did you purposely left? Either I can't read it because it's so small or,
On zone.
Oh, you mean? for the
oh, it's all
preliminary
in
plat?
zoned. You're right. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Okay, my next question. And I know this ain't gonna go well, but why did you put the buffer, the undisturbed buffer on people's backyards? All of that's gonna have, an easement to it. And the LDR specifically states use of the buffers is restricted to only road crossings, bike paths, and greenway trails or walkways not to exceed 10 feet in width. It's very specific as to what you can do in that buffer, and putting lots back there for people to take over is not one of them.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the adjacent parcels left and right?
No, I'm talking about all the lots on the exterior of your subdivision extend right into the 20-foot buffer here and on top.
Okay, yes, sir, understood. So I think it's been the owner's concern or the owner's position that we can covenants and restrictions that no disturbance can be happening in those lots at the end of their portion, if you will. So I think this is similar to the same situation we went through last month with a different project. And I think that you guys gave us an exception on that to understand that covenants and restrictions should keep people from destroying the buffers.
You've got close to 15 to 20 lots. You're going to monitor all these homeowners and say you can't use the back 20 foot of your lot. Well, my interpretation sometimes differs from others. So you're right. I came up with it last month and said the same thing, and I still think it's wrong. Any other questions for the engineer? Anybody got a motion?
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 other people that
Oh,
are still signed up. We have a
I'm so
Michael
sorry.
Dennis and a Brady Sanford.
Are they in favor?
Are they? Yes.
All right. We still got time?
3 minutes and 43 seconds, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Come on up.
Oh, no, I was just going to address the comment about the access to that other portion. That certainly can be done. So that's not a problem to provide access. I wasn't clear about the buffer question. Was that something that came up in the SAC that? No. So we would have addressed that. I apologize that we didn't address your concern there. So
The comments are addressed as far as staff is concerned.
Right.
Okay.
I differ from staff on that.
okay. Yes, so
But
we
it's
can certainly
quite
provide
obvious.
access to that open area. From our understanding is this is the full, I just want to, maybe you'll do a better job of articulating it than I will. This is the full plan we're asking for this entire site. In other words, I don't know how to say it, that open area is open area. It's not a future phase.
That's correct.
Just want to make sure that's clear.
No, we understand that. LDR calls out for a 20-foot access to your common area,
Okay.
other than your access to the stormwater area.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. We're like the engineer Paul Talbot mentioned, obviously we're trying to minimize impact, but we'll come up with a low impact way to access that, whether it's just a little footbridge, something like that, try to get up above the creek area there.
All right. Any other questions? Or no, I'm sorry. We still have speakers. Golly, I'm trying to push you all out the door.
We have Michael Dennis and or Brady Sanford.
I think they're going to yield their time.
All righty. Thank you. Good thing.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve with Mr. Bailey's comments about 2 access points being created in order to reach common area G.
All right, Mr. Forrest made a motion to accept, to approve with staff's recommendations, along with Mr. Bailey's condition of a 20-foot access to the common area. And Mr. Shockley seconded it. Any further discussion? I'm going to say one more time, this does not comply with the LDR. I read it out loud 3 times, and it does not comply. So I will be voting against it. Any other further discussion?
Do you want to make a motion to add something, or do we want to not contradict ourselves now?
No,
I disagree with that interpretation that you have. So I don't think that
it's restricted only to these 4 items?
they can't use it. So the HOA can create, I mean, most subdivisions I've seen run the property line all the way to the edge of the property and
Not
you can't build
anymore.
a fence.
No, not anymore. That buffer,
Still come across my desk and other counties around as well have that. I mean, you can't use it, you can't go mow it down and things like that, but it's restricted, just like you can't do certain other items in there where you're fined if you do those things.
all righty. Thank you, sir. Any other discussion?
How is that? What's the, in your view, the right way to handle that? I mean,
As 90% of the subdivisions we see, the lot lines stop at the buffer. And the rest of the subdivisions, and even the ones we've seen so far, stop at the buffer. So they put a fence up, there's no question. HOA takes care of the buffer. It's very simple.
Right, but they still wouldn't be able to build a fence into that area. It's an undisturbed area.
Oh, I understand. Are you going to stand out there and watch 20 of them?
I mean,
not
there's
do
no
it?
difference than that and having a regulation that the house can't be built so close to the road.
We bring up Claremont being such an issue, and it was. And I'm just afraid we're recreating all these problems. And I just disagree. I'm sorry.
Well, that Claremont was actually the opposite, where the property line, where they weren't able to, there was a fence had to go a certain area. The HOA was not maintaining that space and people were standing behind the fence between that, in that common area and doing nefarious things.
Those residents were extending that fence without the permission of the HOA.
Mr.
Right.
Bickle? Mr. Bickle?
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's okay to ask if they would be willing to make the buffer a part of the common area. But as it stands, the LDR doesn't require it. It's just an easement that's required. But if you want to request it, I think that's a reasonable request based
Well, we
on-
tried that last time, Ms. Jeffers Campbell, and it didn't get anywhere. So I figured it wasn't going anywhere today. I disagree. I'm sorry. I mean, you can't use it. So.
Do you want to make a request?
but I mean, is it fair to say that the real issue is, restricting physical access to that space as opposed to the legal title? I mean, whether I understand that there's a difference if the lot, all that goes all the way through the buffer, legally speaking, the person owns it, but if they give up an easement, then it's restricted as opposed to having the lot line stop 20 feet short and then having a common area. It seems like the real, solution is some sort of physical restriction on that buffered space.
Well, I agree. They're going to run the fence all the way to the lot line, and then all of a sudden you got 20 foot of supposedly undisturbed buffer that they'll disturb.
Well, we can't police what's going on in subdivision. I mean, if they're breaking the HOA rules and restrictions, that's up for the HOA to enforce. You can't create rules for every situation. I mean, it would, even if, let's say the property line doesn't go to the back of the property, what is to say that they still have access to it? There's no physical fence. What's to say they don't go mow the property anyway? Or
Yeah, I
cut
guess.
down. I mean, so it doesn't really, they're going to do something wrong, they're going to do it wrong. I don't think we have to worry about that. As long as the rules are in there and the HOA has the restrictions on it. I mean, that's,
How does HOA access it through a fence?
Huh?
How's the HOA?
the HOA won't allow a fence to be built into that area. It'll only be able to be built back to where the easement is.
Okay.
What's the difference? I mean,
Real world, you know, that's not going to happen. Look, let's just move on here. What? Yeah, I'm trying. Any other questions for the engineer? We have a motion to approve along with Mr. Bailey's recommendation for the access to the rear 20-foot wide. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? No.
No.
Mr. Jones and myself oppose it. All right, next one, Ms. Jeffers Campbell.
The Stables, case 2021-75. The Stables is a cluster subdivision under option 1 of the zoning ordinance. The site is located east of the intersection of Old White Horse Road and Meadowbrook Road. The applicant is requesting 73 lots at a density of 1.69 units per acre in the residential suburban zoning district. The purpose of the RS district is to provide reasonable safeguards for areas that are in the process of development with predominantly single-family dwellings, but are generally still rural in character. Access is provided off of Meadowbrook Road, a county road. Water and sewer will be provided by Greenville Water and Metropolitan Sewer respectively. Here's an aerial photo of the site. Currently, there aren't any subdivision applications approved or under construction in the project area. And you can see some of the development patterns here. Here is Meadowbrook looking east and west. Meadowbrook Road is a 16-foot wide county road with an OCI rating of 80, which means pavement conditions are good. The preliminary plan is before you. The project includes 73 single-family detached lots, 1 primary entrance, 3 internal access roads with sidewalks, and 12.9 acres of common area, including detention area, community park, and cluster mailbox area. Here's the zoning map and some of the surrounding land uses. The site is zoned residential suburban and is located within the suburban edge character of the comprehensive plan. The recommended land use types for this area are low-density residential areas that offer opportunities for low-intensity development that is well integrated with the natural landscape and agricultural uses. Residential development may occur as individual single-family structures on large lots or clusters of homes designed to preserve large amounts of open space, which should be interconnected as part of the county's larger open space system. The recommended density is 0 to 1 dwellings per acre. The project proposes 1.69 units per acre, consistent with the RS zoning district. Based on these findings, staff recommends approval of the plan with the standard and specific requirements. This concludes the presentation.
All righty. Let's start with the opposition. Who would like to speak to the opposition?
Mr. Chairman, first we have signed up Will Childers.
All right, Mr. Childers. Name and address, please, sir. Again,
Thank you, sir.
total of 10 minutes.
My name is Will Childers. I'm here on behalf of Miss Jean Horney, whose address is 10010 Old White Horse Road. We're here today in opposition to the Stables subdivision. I previously submitted a letter that outlined our opposition to this subdivision. Miss Horney is the owner of a small horse farm just north of the Stables subdivision. Two of the areas of concern we have with this subdivision concern the LDR Article 11, which states that the Planning Commission shall determine if the preliminary plan is consistent with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance related to cluster development and open space, as well as certain guidelines that include the home sites are clustered to preserve open space for recreational, environmental, or ecological reasons. Here, the open space provided for by the Stables is a 14-acre dense forest with steep terrain that is on the far end of the property. It does not appear from the preliminary plan that the open space will be preserved for any recreational, environmental, or ecological reasons as required by Article 11. Additionally, the preliminary plan for cluster development must show the developable and undevelopable area of the common area. And based on the preliminary plan, we do not see any developable open space on the preliminary plan. The preliminary plan also must be, the intended uses for the open space must be identified on the preliminary plan. And based on the preliminary plan, we see that there are no intended uses for this open space. Additionally, LDR 11.4 states that open space must be directly accessible to the largest practical number of lots within the development. And on here, we see about 4 homes that are directly accessible to the open space. One of those homes, lot 73, is actually an existing house that is on the property right now, and it's not clear whether that's going to be integrated into the development or not. If it does stay, I think that would further impede the access to the open space. In short, the open space for this development does not comply with Article 11 as it relates to the preliminary plan for cluster developments and is not keeping with the intent for open space, which is to preserve it for recreational, environmental, or ecological reasons. I'll also briefly touch on the surrounding land use density. This area where the stables is to be located is in the old White Horse Road corridor, which consists of properties that are agricultural and rural in nature. Ms. Horny, my client, owns a 32-acre horse farm in the area, which she's had for 40 years. Her neighbors to the north have a horse farm. There's also Riverbend Equestrian Park in the immediate area. Other surrounding properties are similarly situated. So by comparison, the stables will consist of 73 homes crammed onto an area of only 19 acres, which we believe will make the project incompatible with the surrounding land use density of the area. We also believe that adding the stables will also lose the rural character of this residential suburban area as previously stated. Therefore, for these reasons, we respectfully request that you deny this preliminary plan, and I will, unless there are other questions, any questions from me, I will let the other speakers in opposition go forth.
Well, you brought up a very important part or question. Is the I can never say it, developable land shown on this drawing? I can't see it.
It's the green area.
Oh, really? Yes, it is. I didn't see that. Did you see that in the green area? It says developable.
In the copy that we reviewed, there was not any area of the open space labeled developable, but
It is labeled, it's labeled right here on the plan. It's not legible based on, this screen. I can't zoom in.
Oh, this
anymore.
says undevelopable.
No.
All right. I just, he brought up the point.
Undeveloped, developable.
Okay. He brought up the point I wanted to ask. Any other questions for the speaker? All right, next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shannon Wilson. I live at 149 Wind Circle, Greenville, 29617. You ready?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman and council and commission members, thank you for allowing me a chance to speak to you tonight on a matter that's very important to me, to my family, and to my neighbors. And if the folks who are here with me wearing green would please raise your hand or stand. Thank you. Yes. Again, my name is Shannon Wilson. I've lived in the Travelers Rest area for 19 years. Compared to many of my neighbors and friends, I'm still a newcomer, but I've been here long enough to watch exciting growth take place from a sleepy little town, a little crossroads, to a charming and thriving small town with a national reputation. I'm also a supporter of progress and well-managed growth, and the proponent of author Wendell Berry's kindly use of the land mentality. Needless to say, I'm not a fan of unmanaged urban sprawl, and that is why I'm here tonight. As you can see, I'm not alone. Any one of my neighbors here would be very happy to stand with me and speak on behalf of preserving our rural culture, which we commonly just refer to as life in the country. Many were not able to attend this meeting tonight. So I also have with me a petition that is signed by 200 of our friends and neighbors that I'll submit. And that petition is growing daily and at every minute, really. We were very choosy in sharing this petition. We were careful to make sure that each name here has a true and sincere connection to the old White Horse Road corridor. The 200 names were not gathered with any amount of social media, but in the old-fashioned way, neighbors talking to neighbors and expressing shared concerns. Look carefully at these names. They represent an interesting and wide variety of people, including but not limited to developers, builders, bankers, government employees, and so many more, all seeking to preserve the important and fragile rural culture of our area. Our purpose tonight is to oppose the stables development at the corner of Meadowbrook Road and Old White Horse Road. However, our mission is to preserve our unique and charming rural land, which serves as a critical role in keeping Greenville County well-balanced and green. As you well know, the proposed stable subdivision is a cluster development of 73 tract homes packed tightly into 19 acres of land, with an additional 20 acres of land remaining to justify building the maximum number of tract homes possible. I and my neighbors strongly oppose this development. We urge you to deny approval of this project as it stands. If you're not ready to deny the approval tonight, we at very least ask you to table the proposal and allow time for further investigation of how this project would affect the surrounding rural land west of the Reedy River. We are not opposed to subdivision development. And indeed, there are 4 low-impact, well-integrated subdivisions along Old White Horse Road. And contrary to previous information tonight, there is a new subdivision on the way and currently under process. However, we are opposed to this high-density concentrated tract home subdivision. We do not believe that it fits the character, spirit, or purpose of our area. Our biggest concerns with the stables development focus on traffic increase, stormwater management, and density issues. Additionally, we have a list of other questions and concerns we would like to have addressed. Traffic concerns. We understand that to this point, South Carolina DOT has no comment on traffic concerns. This is disturbing to those of us who drive Old White Horse Road daily. Using common metrics, the development of 73 homes would double the number of houses on Old White Horse Road, double the number of houses, and it exponentially increases the additional number of cars beyond that. The stable's only access is located on Meadowbrook Road, a dead end, which is inaccurately drawn on the map. It is a dead end county maintained road, which empties exclusively onto Old White Horse Road. In comments from the previous meeting, where there was no opposition allowed to speak, it seems that a South Carolina DOT's traffic study was deemed unnecessary because Meadowbrook is a county road. This does not make sense. Many additional all the cars that use Meadowbrook will turn from Old White Horse Road directly onto Meadowbrook. This begs the question, for the state road that accesses the county road, do we need a stop sign? Do we need a turning lane? Do we need a red light? No matter what we need a traffic impact study. Indeed, avoiding a subdivision entrance on Old White Horse Road and thereby skirting traffic impact study is the million-dollar question, language that's used by the developer's team. But to forego a traffic study because the entrance is on a county road sounds like turning a blind eye to the facts and would only work in favor of the developer, leaving neighbors who travel Old White Horse Road daily unprotected and their traffic concerns unheard. To fully appreciate the long-term effects of developers employing surrounding county roads for subdivision entrances in order to evade the extra cost and hoops of connecting to a state road, we need to look no further than the Woodruff Road effect, where this tactic was routinely employed. How has the traffic flow been for the past 30 years on Woodruff Road? And do we want Old White Horse Road to follow suit over the next 30 years? Stormwater concerns. My driveway and property belonging to many neighbors south of the proposed development is along a creek originating in the pond on the property in question. Commonly called the Branch Creek, it is a blue line stream flowing year-round. The Branch Creek is used to water livestock and gardens at numerous properties downstream. How will this development affect the water quality of the Branch Creek downstream? Is the Branch Creek protected by the Clean Water Act? In heavy rains, the Branch Creek often floods and at times has washed out driveways, fences, and land. How will a tract home cluster development of 73 homes with multiple impervious surfaces each adversely contribute to the increased Branch Creek flooding, creating nuisance conditions, affecting the enjoyment of private property, and inflicting costly property damage on existing homeowners? With a large percentage of the stable's homes draining directly into the pond and then flowing south through the Branch Creek to the Reedy River. How is it possible that post-development flow rates will remain at or below current rates? Once again, we need to look no further than Woodruff Road. The Woodruff Road Scuffletown area. Thank you. The Woodruff Road Scuffletown area shows us how the county is struggling today with water volume discharge issues and a result of high density development. My neighbors and I are very concerned about a tight cluster tract home development destroying the ecology of the pond and the Branch Creek and adversely affecting our lands south and onto the Reedy River. When the road is widened from 16 to 20 feet, how will it affect the Branch Creek, which runs parallel to it for some length of time? How will fragile ecosystems be affected in these wetlands, which are clearly marked? Where is a copy of the ecology studies conducted, such as the Bunched Arrowhead study? We are asking for more time to ensure the protection of the pond on this property and the Branch Creek originating from it and the private properties downstream.
Are you about finished?
I have just a few more comments.
All right, please hurry.
Density concerns. As Mr. Childers has expressed, high density is a major concern which will effectively destroy the character and usage of our area. A cluster tract home development of the stable's density, allowing for an average of 0.19 acres per home, is not consistent with the characteristics for rural suburban edge. In the county's comprehensive plan, which is featured on the front of the website, the future land use plan, page 77 indicates a significant distinction drawn between suburban edge areas as compared to suburban neighborhood areas. The Reedy River provides a clear dividing line between suburban neighborhood development to the east of the Reedy River, allowing 3 to 5 dwellings per acre gross density. Suburban edge land west of the Reedy River allows 0 to 1 dwelling per acre gross density.
Ma'am, you've gone over several sentences. I have to stop you. You've far
May I
exceeded
close?
your time. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
10 seconds.
In closing, please try to put yourself in our shoes and how Greenville, from our perspective and from our direction, is being changed. We are not trying to bring dirt bikes, backyard shooting ranges, and livestock to urban and suburban neighborhoods. And respectfully, we'd ask you not bring high-density tract homes to our part of the county. I will finish my thoughts tonight with a brief lesson in literary technique, the use of tragic irony. The very name of this proposed development, the Stables, reveals the developer's awareness of the value of the existing character of this land and area. In fact, a beautiful old red stable stands on the property now. If this project is approved, that stable would be the first thing to go. And the continued development of tract home clusters built subdivisions like this one will ensure that Old White Horse Road corridor and rural areas like it will eventually be robbed of the charming rural character which makes them so attractive and important to the delicate balance of our lovely, unique, and quickly developing Greenville County.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I am grateful to you and the time that you take to make these decisions. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Do we have any speakers? 4.
We have one speaker signed up, Kevin Tumlin.
All righty.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I did have one question for the speaker. Did I understand you to say that you felt like this single subdivision would double the traffic count on Old White Horse Road?
A little more than double the traffic count. It doubles the number of homes. There are approximately 90 homes on Old White Horse Road, adding 73. Traffic count would increase exponentially with 2 3-car homes. We don't know what the anticipated number of cars per home is because there's not a traffic study.
Thank you.
Well, let me quickly, the LDR requires a traffic study at 90 lots.
Yes, and so this includes 73 homes and 40 homes coming less than a mile north on Old White Horse Road at the same time. That is in
We can't combine them. I'm sorry.
the other problem is.
No, ma'am, you've had plenty of time. Let's talk.
There is another problem with traffic.
Mr. Chairman, can we move on, please?
Ma'am, I was trying to be nice and try to explain what the LDR states, and this has just gone too far. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin Tomlin with Freeland and Associates, 323 West On Avenue.
You got 30 seconds. No.
Just wanted to address a couple of their concerns they brought up. First thing, the question about open space, we've got almost 11 acres of developable open space, and it's not steep. We could easily develop it. So that's there, and it's clearly marked on the plat. And in all, with all the undeveloped common area, I mean, we're close to 18 acres, so we're well over 40% of the entire development. As far as the density, we're at 1.7 units per acre, which is not dense, and it's allowed by the RS zoning, obviously. And the units obviously are packed in because, I mean, that's the intent of the cluster ordinance, so that we can create the open space in the rear of the property. And by doing that, we were able to have almost close to 750 feet of buffer between the development and the Reedy River. Questions about traffic. We talked to the SCDOT. They didn't have concerns, did not ask for a traffic study. Of course, the county engineering group looked at it too and didn't have any questions. But I would point out that on the plat, we noted that we will make improvements to Meadowbrook Road from Old Horse Road up to our new entrance. So whatever the county asks us to do, whether it's widening or whatever we have to do to improve that section of Meadowbrook Road, we'll take care of that. The bunched arrowhead, I think we actually weren't required to do that, but we did have that study done and none were found on the site. So we addressed that. I think she mentioned something about the existing barn being torn down. We're actually going to keep the existing barn and use it as an amenity. So it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay on the development. And I think that answers all their questions, but if not, I'll be happy to answer any more that you guys have.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few.
Go ahead, Ms. Clark.
The existing pond, I would imagine that by default, it's going to also serve as stormwater management.
No,
No?
we're going to redirect all our new developed water to a new proposed detention pond.
Okay,
So it'll remain undisturbed.
okay. I'm really struggling to understand. We've seen pictures of flooding. We've heard comments about flooding resulting from that existing pond. And I'm really struggling to understand why flooding is such an issue from that pond when it's undisturbed land right now. I mean, that's a huge sponge that should be absorbing all that runoff. So I don't understand the flooding issue.
Well, I don't either, and I'm not sure about that. And obviously, we're not in the design phase, but we're actually going to, some of this water that's going to the pond now will be intercepted and redirected to our stormwater detention pond. So if anything, I think any of the flooding from that pond should improve. And then when we get into the design, we'll also closely look at the existing pond to see if there's any issues.
Question about access. Did DOT tell you you could not access directly onto Old White Horse?
No, we did not attempt to do that because, you know, the DOT tries to limit the number of accesses and they have requirements about spacing with speed limit and they make you do alignments with driveways across the street. So it just makes no sense to make a new curb cut in the DOT when we have an existing road that we can make improvements to make the DOT and the county happy.
Right. I drove this road last week and was pretty shocked at how narrow it is. And I understand you're going to widen it, but only to the access.
Right.
It's a very awkward way to get into the subdivision and to leave the subdivision. You know, you leave, you make a right turn and you're right on Old White Horse and now you're sitting there waiting to get out.
Mhm.
It's awkward. My other concern, and this may be more for staff, the fact that the fire department did not comment. I have real concerns about a fire truck being able to get down there, down that 16-foot road, and then being able to have the turn radius to get in there if they need to. I'd like to hear it from the fire department that it's not an issue.
Well, you know, again, we do make great attempts to reach out to them, but they didn't respond. If this body feels like that's an agency that they would like to hear from prior to making a decision on this application, that's a reasonable move to make. But as it stands, we did not hear back from them on this application.
But let me just mention this, though, that of course, the fire department's main access would be along Meadowbrook Road that we're going to widen and then into our subdivision. So there won't be a 16-foot access. And then we have a secondary access, maybe halfway down the road, that they would only use in an emergency if the front entrance were
Right, but
blocked.
that
So that's
emergency access is in lieu of the second access that you normally would need.
right. And it's only required for this number of lots. It's only being used if the main entrance was blocked for some reason, which is very rare.
Right, I understand that, but I still see that as a potential issue.
2 entrances aren't required, Ms. Clark.
Over 30 lots?
I thought it was like 100.
It's 30.
Is it 30? Okay.
I believe if it's 30 or more, you just have to have a secondary emergency access, which we
Right.
have.
They
Okay.
have that.
That's fine. I was just trying to help.
They've met the requirement.
Just as a general comment, everything west of the Reedy along this corridor is very rural, large lots. This is not a compatible use along this corridor. And the fact that it is sandwiched between 2 equestrian facilities, I think is also not a good fit.
Ms. Clark, you done?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for the engineer?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Finley, is there any reason to believe there's a fire safety access issue?
No.
Any other questions?
Let me just say, no, after we do the improvements to the front entrance and widen it to whatever the county recommends, there won't be any issues.
Fire marshal's got an issue. He'll bring it up. He or she. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just one, how far, I mean, just looking at a GIS that, I know Green Valley and there's another subdivision next to Green Valley, is how far from there? Doesn't look like far on, but
It's hard for me to say, honestly. I can't really answer that. Maybe somebody with Google Maps could answer.
okay. Well, I was thinking those cars are also emptying on the old White Horse Road, so. And I think at least one of those subdivisions next to Green Valley is not, if memory serves, the lots are smaller, less than an acre. So I don't know that it's entirely uncharacteristic of that area, but. Anyhow.
Any questions? I do have a slight issue with the cluster. Just like the attorney said, it's supposed to be accessible to the largest practical number of lots within the development, which I've brought up before, but I do think this is a little dense up front. So that's my comment. Motions? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve docket 075.
All righty. Staff didn't have any conditions, did they? Or SAC conditions.
The standard and specific requirements.
Right, standards. Okay. All righty, Mr. Bailey made a motion. Who was the second? Mr. Hammond. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Ms. Clark, myself, and Mr. Jones again. It passes 6-3. All right, come on. No more. Sir, no more comments, or we'll ask you to leave, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, what was the count on that?
6-3.
Yes or no?
Paula,
Yeah, there was 4.
do we have a cop out there? Huh?
5-4.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 5-4. Who was the other one?
Hey,
I'm sorry, Mr. Looper. Sorry. Thank you.
Well, and that's why there's so many people here, because it makes sense to oppose it. I'm sorry. All right, we're out. Thank you all very, very much.
That's okay. Thank you, Ms. Cocker.
Next item on the agenda is Bridgeport Towns, case 2021-83. Bridgeport Towns is a townhome cluster development under option 1 of the zoning ordinance located south of the intersection of Fair Forest Way and Ridge Road. It is part of a larger mixed-use residential subdivision proposed in the city of Greenville with over 300 single-family and townhome units between Lawrence Road and Ridge Road. The applicant is requesting 103 townhome units at a density of 8.6 units in the multifamily R-M16 zoning district. Access is provided off of Ridge Road, a state road. Water and sewer will be provided by Greenville Water and Metropolitan Sewer. Here's an aerial photo of the site. Subdivisions under construction.